Two of my favorite students of human behavior are named Pink and Pinker. There's no particular significance to that fact, but it has motivated three of my students in the Leadership Studies program at Ripon College to produce this little video. Both Dan Pink and Steven Pinker write about the creative potential and the moral impulses of normal, everyday human beings, which is something we believe in. All three of these students are interns and minors in the Leadership Studies program at Ripon College. Wiley Gayhart from Bristol, Wisconsin will offer her thoughts about Pink's message in his book, Drive. Kristen Wills from Green Lake, Wisconsin will summarize the gist of Steven Pinker's book, The Better Angels of Our Nature, Why Violence Has Declined. Ricky Nogle from Palos Park, Illinois will play the part of Whiteboard Man and create the graphics to help clarify the narrative.
When it comes to motivation, Dan Pink, author of the book Drive, claims that there's a significant gap between what social science knows and what business thinks it knows about human motivation. Pink argues persuasively that social science offers a new approach to motivation with three essential elements. Autonomy, which is the desire to direct our own lives, mastery, which is the urge to make progress and get better at something interesting, and purpose, which is the yearning to act in the service of something greater than ourselves. All three of these elements play a crucial role in what Pink calls our human operating system. According to Pink, the earliest version of our human operating system, which he calls Motivation 1.0 and which stretches back millions of years, is all about survival. Motivation 2.0, which arose as we developed complex civilizations, revolves around external rewards and punishments. In turn, Motivation 2.0 is dependent on and fostered by what Pink calls Type X behavior. In other words, behavior fueled by extrinsic desires rather than intrinsic desires, and concerned less with the inherent satisfaction of an activity than with the external rewards to which an activity leads. Motivation 3.0 is what matters most in the kind of complex, global, knowledge-driven culture many human beings now live in. It's also the kind of motivation that human beings naturally aspire to after their lower needs for survival and security are met. Unlike Motivation 2.0, which is dependent on and fostered by Type X behavior, Motivation 3.0 is dependent on and fostered by Type I behavior. In other words, behavior that depends not on motivation generated by external awards offered by managers or leaders, but on motivation driven by activities that are inherently rewarding, satisfying, and enjoyable. Pink's review of the research indicates that external rewards and Type X behaviors are much less effective, productive, and creative than intrinsic rewards and Type I behaviors. He also summarizes landmark research over the last 60 years that has led to the insights of Motivation 3.0. Pink also notes that Type I people are made, not born, which means we all have a fair shot at developing our own personal Motivation 3.0 operating system if we are willing to learn and develop our talents. Research supports Pink's conclusions that Type I behavior leads to stronger performance, better health, and higher overall well-being. By appealing to the natural human drives for autonomy, mastery, and purpose, businesses, organizations, and communities can take much greater advantage of human capacities and human creative potential than previous generations would have dreamed possible.
Tracking violence in the news these days makes us want to ask, what is this world coming to? Yet we seldom ask, how bad was the world in the past, or how are we improving? Steven Pinker answers those questions in The Better Angels of Our Nature, Why Violence Has Declined. In his book, Pinker provides piles of statistics and graphic evidence of the bloody history of human beings over thousands of years. Pinker cites 5 factors he calls inner demons to describe human proclivities for violence. The first is predation, practical violence driven by a desire to achieve a goal, just as other predator species kill other animals for food. Dominance is about gaining power and control over others through force and fear. Revenge is driven by red-hot emotion over perceived injuries or insults. Sweet revenge has been celebrated in ancient literature like the Old Testament and Homer, and in other recent pop culture. Sadism is violence driven by psychopathic pleasure in the suffering of others. But the really big body counts, Pinker claims, are driven by ideologies, that is, belief systems that set one group against another, as in religious or political systems. Ideologies cannot be verified by reason or evidence, so when they are threatened, people often resort to violence in their defense. Tracing human history from genocides in the Old Testament to murderous sports in the Roman Colosseum, outrageous torture in the Inquisition, the burning and drowning of women convicted of witchcraft, and fatal torture of animals just for fun, Pinker argues that human behavior has progressively become much less savage and barbaric. We may believe that violence is worse nowadays because our weapons are so much more powerful and because news media constantly showcase graphic violence. But human population has grown much faster than the incident of violence, and news is always about the exceptions, not the norms. The better angels of our nature, he claims, are driven by 5 developments. The first came when leaders of organized governments took over the monopoly of violence and outlawed it among private citizens. From ancient times, gentle commerce required cooperative relationships among merchants, customers, and others involved in economic activity. Through military and police forces, governments developed trading routes and helped minimize disruptions by pirates and criminals. Feminization is the third force reducing violence. In all times and places, violent mayhem has been committed by men way more than by women. Wherever women have achieved greater political and social power, violence has waned. As literacy, communication, and transportation technologies have reduced our planet to a global village, we have also experienced an expanding circle of sympathy and empathy, which helps us recognize our universal humanity and keeps our inner demons at bay. Finally, as education and scientific method have expanded our knowledge about virtually everything, we have stepped on what might be called the escalator of reason. Once we set foot on that escalator, we can't go back to earlier beliefs based on superstition and tradition. The escalator takes us upward to new frontiers of knowledge, understanding, and empathy. If Pinker's enormous compilation of evidence is valid, perhaps the meek really will inherit the earth from the dominant and the violent. In fact, maybe we already have.
So there you have the bare minimum about the Pink and Pinker stories. If anyone out there knows another writer named Pinkest, I hope you'll be in touch. Meanwhile, here are some internet links by which you can find out more. Thanks for watching.